Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm working on a new design team project for ScrappyTails, and I'm going to be using the designer friend sentiments from the most recent release. I've already made a couple of cards using the really cute shoe dies, and then again another one making a card using the perfume bottle. This time what I'm going to try to do, we'll see how it turns out, is just use the stamps. And we're going to see how it turns out. I'm going to start off by embossing a sentiment right here in the center of my panel. So I've already got it positioned where I want, and I use some plastic to make sure I got everything right. And I'm going to gently press down. This is a fine detail stamp, and you don't want to put too much pressure, because what that'll do is it will squish your ink around and you won't be able to see the fine detail of the stamp. Now, that being said, it's possible that I wind up having it not as quite as legible as I want it, but we shall see how it turns out. I'm going to go with it. Let's see how that one does. And I'm going to go over it with some silver. This is Wow Metallic Silver Sparkle Embossing Glitter. And I'm going to heat it from the bottom. Now you can tell that there are some places where it's a little bit bunched up, and that's because that's part that had a little bit too much of the embossing ink. And I'm heating from below so I don't blow away the glitter. Okay, there we go. Now I'm using that same stamp, and I'm again stamping in the embossing ink, and I'm going to start doing some embossing over the entire panel in clear embossing ink. Now you'll notice that I just stamped a little bit over on the edge, and I'm going to just emboss that little bit. I think you can see a little bit of that shine there. This is white on white, so it's not as visible for you. I'm basically going to go over the entire panel with that same, let's see, where did I have this one? I'm going to go over the entire panel with that same stamp. Okay, so that's where I had it. I'm going to move it. Actually, I think I'm going to just move the stamp each time. And what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to put this in different locations on the entire background so I can do the next step. So I've already got two rows of, or rather two columns of the sentiments down. And now I'm going to add another, and I'm using my cardstock, an extra piece of cardstock, to help me figure out exactly where I want it lined up. So I'm going to go right up at this line here. Doing the same thing, just adding some embossing ink down. And I really don't care on these whether or not it has too much. If it has too much, that's fine. It's just going to basically give it more of a grungish look when I get everything finished up. So again, adding some of the embossing powder, tapping off the excess, and then just heating it up. And I'm going to finish doing another column right beside that second one that includes my silver. I'm going to do another column going straight on up. And I think, yeah, now you can see the shine on the white. White on white means you really can't see a whole lot, but that is totally fine. We are going to be doing a little bit different. That should be approximately correct. And I'm using a piece of plastic just to make sure. Okay, so it is right about where I want it. I think I want to move it down just a touch. There we go. And if it lines up perfect with the other side, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. This is just the background. Okay, there we go. Stamp it a couple of times. And again, adding some more clear embossing powder. And then once it's all shiny, you know that it's done. So next I'm going to add a little bit of ink. So I've got my favorite blending brushes that still have leftover ink on them, and I'm just going to bring some of that in, starting on this outside. Looks like I don't really have enough of the blue, so I think I'm going to use a couple of different colors of blue for this part. Starting off with this lighter, which is Blue Raspberry Color Hive ink from Maker Forte. I'm just going to bring a little bit of that in. And I'm overlapping some of the stamping that I already did, okay? Okay, and you can see some of that stamping where I've already, with my brush, brushed off some of those. I'm going to come back in with some suede shoes. I'm sorry, blue suede. Blue suede from Catherine Pooler. Coming in again from that outer edge, just deepening up the outside. And pulling it in a little bit. That I think is lovely. Next I'm going to come in with some purple. Now I don't know exactly what color purple is on here, but I know that they're both pretty light, so I'm probably going to come back in with some more ink from Catherine Pooler. Yep, there's not really that much on here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab out my pixie dust. Add some to my brush, and then just bring that in over here next to the blue. So we're going to have, let me get a paper towel. We're going to have plenty of ink on this panel, and they're going to blend really, really well. I did think initially I was just going to hold everything down with my magnets, but you know what? I need to move this around enough, so that didn't really work. Okay, so that I think is looking pretty nice. Let me bring it out a little bit further into the blue, and then I'm going to come in on the edge with some red, and that should deepen up that purple a little bit. And again, I don't know how much ink is actually on the brush. This one looks like we do have a bit more of the purple, so that's nice. I mean, a bit more of the red. So now we've got a little bit of an ombre going on right there. And then I'm just going to buff off some of the ink from over the clear embossing. And you can tell that there's some areas that I didn't really get that good of embossing, but you know what? I think that looks pretty good. As for the sentiment, I decided I don't really like that. I think what I want to do instead is I'm going to stamp out a separate sentiment and emboss it and then place that over where that one is. So if there's ever any part that you don't like, you can always fix it. So I went ahead and stamped and embossed that sentiment again, and then die cut it out using one of the dies from this die set. I will get you guys the name and have that listed down below. I also went ahead and die cut out this larger piece, which is going to act as a frame. And for that one, I want a little bit more of that silver. So I'm going to just ink the edges. Just doing 3 at a time, or 3 to start. And then I'm going to add some of this same silver sparkle around the edges. Okay, and then I'm going to heat that up. And then, of course, if I need more, I can always add some more of that embossing. And I'm going to let it cool a little bit before I go and do the last side. I'm going to go ahead and trim this down a little bit, and I do kind of want everything to stay around the center. I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch off of all the sides. This is going to give my panel, it's going to make my panel 3 3/4 by 5, which means it'll have a 1/4 inch border when I put this on an A2 card base. Now what I decided I also want to do is add a little bit more silver embossing powder. Yes. So what I'm going to do now is, let's take that silver back out. I keep putting it away. And I'm going to add just a little tiny bit all the way around the edges. So I'm going to just add a little bit to the edge of my card panel. Knowing that it's probably going to wind up needing a little bit more, but you know what? Actually, I think that looks good. If I can actually do that all the way around, that would be fabulous. So let me go ahead and heat this up. And I think that that looks good. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other 3 sides. So now that we've got all the pieces, I'm going to go ahead and start putting this one together. So I've got an A2 size card base over here. I've put some of my Scotch foam tape on the back of that panel I've been working on, and just adding a little liquid adhesive to the back of my foam strips so that I can reposition this when I inevitably put it down a little bit crooked. This gives you a chance to move it around a little bit. Also, you want to make sure you have it going the right direction. And I do have a little bit of an edge. I also am noticing that my card panel, my card base is not exactly straight. So when I created that one, who knows how long ago, I didn't do it completely straight. So I will need to trim that off. But I'd say that the top and the side are pretty much even. So that is great. Now I can do the same kind of thing with my other pieces. I'll go ahead and add the embossed shape down right over where that other embossed was, and then I'll put a little bit of foam tape on the back of the sentiment, the final sentiment. And again, I'm going to use my foam tape and the liquid adhesive combination so I can get it right where I want it. So as you're learning and creating, you'll learn what you do, what mistakes you make, and what tricks you can use to fix it so that nobody ever knows that you ever made a mistake. And as a final bit, I'm going to add a few little crystal gems that I've had in my stash for a while to the front, and they're going to go along great with all that silver. And that is going to finish up this card for the Not Too Shabby Shop. You guys may be sure to check out this playlist over here to see more projects where I'm using Not Too Shabby Shop products. And y'all have a wonderful day. Remember, if I can make it, you can too. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.